I'm trying to move to the Seattle area. Maybe it's for work, maybe it's for the beautiful mountains and the weather and the great, amenities that are offered. But why would somebody consider moving to Kenmore or Bothell? What kind of people live here?
What I think is interesting is he could live anywhere and he really enjoy the community of Bothell.
It's a little bit more affordable than some of the communities that are closer to the hubs, being Seattle and Bellevue.
Justin Day.
John Pfiel.
Okay, what the heck are we going to talk about? Welcome to another episode of Seattle Living and Wealth Building. So super excited about today's podcast. I got a couple experts in the neighborhoods that we're going to explore. These are awesome areas that you may have heard of, you may not have heard of. So we're going to dive deep into them. What's great is we've got an awesome special guest we're going to introduce you to shortly. And then one of our neighborhood experts is our one and only Justin Day.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about Kenmore today and downtown Bothell. And I'm really excited to also welcome John Pfiel. He's a local Kenmore resident here. He's actually a friend of mine. He's a fellow Inglewood Golf Club member. He's actually our newest president of Inglewood Golf Club as of yesterday.
That's right.
So congrats there, John. And John is also the co-founder and CEO of two really wonderful businesses. One is ProStar Insurance, which is one of the most highly respected insurance agencies in the Pacific Northwest, and then also Pfiel Strategies, which people would know it more as Love the Process, which is a fantastic venture that him and his wife Adrienne have put together. So, John, thanks for coming today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I like the second half, the wealth building. This is my first time. I know you both well and had a chance to know what you guys care about and what you guys are after. And so I'm just grateful to be here and excited to have this conversation. But I love the second half of that wealth building. I think real estate is you guys are partial to a phenomenal tool to help families. We deal with families, thousands and thousands of families who, when you watch them, secure property and get a second property potentially or whatnot, you watch their lives increase. So grateful for all you guys do on behalf of families.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Really appreciate having you on here. So you're wondering, okay, what the heck are we going to talk about? Well, Bothell is a massive city, so let's level set for the folks who are watching the areas that we're going to focus on and why we've put together Kenmore and Bothell, but not just all of Bothell, but Kenmore and downtown Bothell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when you look at the two areas geographically, it's really along that 522 corridor, which is Bothell Highway essentially, and that runs right through downtown Kenmore, all the way up from Seattle through Lake Forest Park into Kenmore and through to downtown Bothell and beyond to 405. So it really, in some respects, they're very much intertwined. I think both communities are symbiotic in that way. So, yeah.
And I'm a kid who landed in Bothell, right? I was a ward of the court when I was young, and my aunt and uncle lived in Bothell, Washington, and so it was quite a come up from the projects in West Seattle where I was at till I was 7, and so I've had an affinity for Bothell. I had two things I said when I was growing up. Number one is that one day, my dad is African American, my mom's Norwegian German, so I'm African, I like to say. I said one day a African is going to get elected president and Bothell's going to blow up. They used to chant, "Smells like Bothell."
Oh yeah.
That's how much Bothell has progressed.
It's come a long way, I guess.
It's on the rise.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a day or a lifetime, like it says on that corridor Justin talks about. They used to have a sign. They took it down and now it's back. Thanks, Mayor Rahim. But it does say now, "Welcome to Bothell for a day or a lifetime."
Yeah.
And it's got a great feel. And Justin lives and I live now in Kenmore. So I actually sometimes have to go see a therapist because I feel like I sold out a little bit when I moved across the slough.
Well, so to clarify, John, you've lived in in this area, being Woodinville, Bothell, Kenmore for virtually your whole life, right?
Yeah, which comprises the school district of North Shore,
Yeah.
right? 6 high schools, a bunch of middle schools. Matter of fact, the middle school, Skyview Middle School, was Skyview Junior High. When I was in 7th grade, it was just built. So we were the first class to go all the way through that middle school. So yeah, I know this area incredibly well. Matter of fact, played golf a few weeks ago with a guy who grew up as my babysitter across the street in Bothell. We were going down memory lane to the way Bothell has really. He ended up being a school teacher and a golf coach, 32 years. But anyway.
Yeah, so I can imagine it's changed a lot over the years, clearly. So for the viewers, many of them are watching because they're like, okay, I'm trying to move to the Seattle area. Maybe it's for work. Maybe it's for the beautiful mountains and the weather and the great, amenities that are offered. But why would somebody consider moving to Kenmore or Bothell? What kind of people live here?
Well, I want to tell one quick story on that. So the University of Washington football had a new staff come in 2 years ago, right? All from different places. Jimmy Lake was out, and Kalen DeBoer brought up a lot of staff. And so Ron McCaffrey, who was our strength and conditioning coach, I was at practice, all the spring practices. And one of the guys on the staff called me a culture coach, right? They're like, who's this guy? So it's at all the first round of practice. So they're all trying to figure out where to live. And Ron McCaffrey, who's now a special assistant down in Alabama, he's like, I'm kind of between Bellevue and Bothell. And I'm like, oh, coach, Bothell's.
That's the wrong guy.
Bothell's the better Bellevue, coach. I said, Bothell's the better Bellevue.
The better Bellevue. Okay, let's talk about that.
So he pulls the trigger, buys a place in Bothell, has had absolutely no regrets. Loved it. The entire time he was here, when they, obviously relocated.
So besides UW coaches, who else do you think, let's say Kenmore and
But this is somebody
Bothell.
moving in. He could live anywhere. What I think is interesting is he could live anywhere, and he really enjoyed the community of Bothell. Yeah, he drove down to the University of Washington early in the morning and got in his office and did all those things. But he had family, and he had his wife, and they all very much enjoyed Bothell. I think Bothell's a great city for any growing, aspiring professional. Those who, our target market was always our home office is in Bothell, but we've also been in Kenmore. We've been in Everett. So I've
From
been
an office perspective.
Yeah. So we've been in Redmond. I've had home offices in our business in different cities. And I really do, and I like the way you're trying to incorporate the conversation to include Kenmore, because I agree with you. Kenmore has the same potentials as Bothell down down that 522 corridor, and the Sammamish River flows into Lake Washington, and kind of that, and then it's the only seaplane city I know. So the beauty of Kenmore doesn't get enough airtime either. I don't think.
Yeah, so we're talking about the different types of people, right? I mean, when I look at Kenmore and Bothell, I think of some of the main reasons why it's appealing, especially to young families and whatnot, is because it's a little bit more affordable than some of the communities that are closer to the hubs, being Seattle and Bellevue.
Yeah.
Obviously you can live in Kirkland, but Kirkland's really expensive. You can live in Redmond, it's pretty darn expensive. Bellevue's expensive. You get up a little bit further north, Kenmore is one of those communities that, is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very easy to get on both sides of the lake, down Lake City, down 405 to get downtown. So that really gives it a lot of appeal. I have some clients that bought a place in Kenmore and didn't even consider Kenmore at all. They were looking mostly on the east side, and they were really focused on areas like Redmond, southern parts of Woodinville, maybe parts of Kirkland. And then I kind of exposed them to the world of Kenmore, and then they were immediately like, wow, this is awesome. We can get just as much, if not more, for a house. It's not cheap. I think they spent almost $2 million on a house. But,
well, what's the average price point, though? So for perspective.
But for single-family houses, you're usually looking north of $1 million for a single-family house. Obviously places like Kenmore and downtown Bothell, they have a lot of condos, apartments, and townhouses as well. Yeah. So there really is there's a lot of different types of living that you can have here.
Sounds like a wide range of opportunities for different lifestyles, different people.
Totally. Efficient for sure. I think it's understated how accessible it is to get places from that area you just described.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter which direction you want to go, if you're traveling into Seattle, if you're traveling in the Bellevue, and I think that's true. And I think from a value standpoint, a community standpoint, that makes a lot of sense to me. Your analysis there.
Well, one thing that when we're talking about proximity, right, is obviously transportation. That's such a big source of conversation. Our closest light rail station from the heart of Kenmore is a good 10-minute drive. So it's not like we're super, super close to the light rail, which is, kind of the big.
And is this light rail that goes into Seattle, or light rail that goes into?
Light rail on the Seattle side.
On the Seattle side, okay, got it.
But one thing that Kenmore has available, you have along 522 there, Kenmore and Bothell, is, the express bus lanes that go all the way through. And so there's no traffic allowed in those lanes other than buses. And so it really does help with anyone who's looking for public transportation options to the heart of the cities, from these kind of more suburban areas.
Yeah, I totally agree. That 522 bus, I used to take it in the law school, in Capitol Hill, and that was now where we had our first place we lived in, we bought a condo in Woodinville, and it was the same consideration. It's like, how can I access public transportation to get where I need to go? And at that time, my wife was working in Redmond at Genie, and I was taking a bus down to Seattle U, and it was very, very efficient. And then we moved to downtown Bothell, basically right up the hill, right across from the high school, and really same thing. Was able to get anywhere we wanted to go quickly and efficiently. And now we live in Kenmore, really close to Justin, and have the same exact access and proximity. It matters, and time is so vital to be able to efficiently move. And so because then if you're just looking at value, then you got to go north, right, and start talking about cities that are further north, and kind of the nuances of living in Everett or Linwood or some of those neighboring shoreline, I suppose.
So that's a unique aspect of it, is that if you are moving here because you're working for a big tech company that's in Bellevue, it's maybe it's Microsoft in Redmond, right, or maybe you're downtown Seattle, you're so centrally located that you can get to either side very easily, yet you're in this, sounds like a very, relatively more affordable community that has nice housing, nice neighborhoods. Schools? How are the schools?
Yeah, I love that question specifically because the North Shore School District is one of the most highly regarded school districts around. Specifically, the elementary schools in North Shore School District are the highest rated elementary schools in Washington State, which is awesome. Still that doesn't mean middle schools and high schools aren't good. They're really good. I mean, John specifically will tell you till he's blue in the face, and I say blue in the face literally.
Almost wore the Bothell hat.
Exactly.
I just want to slight Kenmore.
Yeah, because John lives, breathes, and dies Bothell High School. He bleeds blue. The color of his business is blue. Like everything is blue. And so, obviously John's a proponent for North Shore School District, but my kids go to North Shore School District, or within North Shore School District, and it's really, really good schools. And once again, people who want to have schools, everyone hears about like Issaquah schools and Bellevue schools, but once again, those areas can be very expensive, or maybe they're not suiting your lifestyle in the way you want it to. And North Shore is kind of the equivalent, if not maybe like very similar type of school district.
And they've built out some niches too, right? So like our kids go to a niche in the district called North Shore Family Partnerships, right? Because we kind of have this, world schooling kind of approach to their education every other year. This won't be one of those years, as I'll be around the golf club a lot more this year. But also families with students with special needs. North Shore has a couple of very specialized and/or very high-functioning kids that kids and parents are excited to take their kids to North Shore because of the support that they receive on both ends kind of the spectrum as well. And we found that to be awesome, the flexibility of the school system. So when you ask about schools, and yes, Crystal Springs Elementary School, where I landed, home of the Roadrunners, Bothell, Washington, was the #1 elementary school at one point in the state of Washington.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that says a lot. Elementary schools are often driving real estate values, right? Because people want to make sure their kids are taken care of. We've got great proximity to downtown Seattle, downtown Bellevue. It's more affordable. We've got great school districts. So is there anything to do here?
Great question.
Aside from all that. So what's like a day in the life of,
Like, well, I can run back just before here.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I had lunch at Alexa's restaurant.
Okay.
The manager is a Bothell grad, and I'm telling you, I call it the center of the universe. Okay, Passion Tequila at Night, which is downtown Bothell. That's the Mexican restaurant downtown Bothell, and we've got the lodge, and we've certainly, Justin and I are fortunate enough to be members of Inglewood. Inglewood, I call the best restaurant in Kenmore. But
It's true.
But so we go to Lexus, and it is vibrant. I mean, there's a ton of people sitting in this restaurant, eating, and so anyway, but that whole main street has got, restaurant, bar, Thai food, sushi food, cafe, anything that you want to eat in that location we just talked about, yet with a small town type feel when you walk up and down Main Street with accessibility and that what they've kind of redeveloped, which we talk about the future at Kenmore, continuing to invest in those things.
This is a big part of the conversation that I'm excited about today, is because we're talking about downtown Bothell and we're talking about Kenmore, right? And they're both communities that are very different in many ways, but also very similar. And what downtown Bothell has done over the last 15 years is really what Kenmore has started to maybe try and scratch the surface of doing. But downtown Bothell has grown leaps and bounds over the last 15 years. And when you look at the population of Bothell as a city, it's grown by 40%. What was it? 40%. 40% in the last 10 years. 40%.
Okay. Yeah,
and
that's
so
a lot
when
of
we're
people.
talking about downtown Bothell specifically, they had, 1,300 new, 1,400 new apartments and townhouses built in the downtown Bothell core itself. And so they moved a road, like 522 had to get moved to be able to support the development of downtown Bothell. Now Main Street is a walking street only, and all these different women-owned businesses. I actually have, some good friends and clients who, one of them owns Co-Capsules, which is a women's clothing company housed right out of there. And it's so awesome to see it becoming more of like an urban center instead of a suburban, dreary kind of, what did you call it earlier? The Bothell.
Smells like
Bothell.
Well, and this time it smells like Bothell, smells like Thai food, smells like all kinds of good
exactly.
food.
Well, even during COVID, and you can boat, right? If you get in a canoe or a kayak, or they do paddle boats, but you can go all the way up and down that Sammamish River, and I think about how much opportunity there is to continue what you just discussed in terms of the way it feels and the use of the real estate and the use of the land. This is an old shipping, big boats used to come in and out. But Bothell and Kenmore chambers have recently kind of come together, right? So Woodinville has its Chamber of Commerce, but Bothell and Kenmore actually meet here once a quarter at Inglewood. And I think more and more collaborative conversations are happening with small business owners, thinkers, city planners, the Kenmore city manager, around how can they continue that blueprint of progress while, I think every city says the same thing. Chelan, we were just at, right? They want to maintain its core DNA.
Right.
And my theory with Kenmore is I think you can you build around the seaplane harbor. I mean, I just think they've got the hangar now, it's called.
Yep.
They've got the coffee shop.
And the Stoop Brewing right there.
But you're not going to miss. I mean, it's not going to go. It's not going to do anything but go the right direction. If you're talking about wealth creation, buying a place in Kenmore is forward thinking with your dollar.
Yeah, more so than downtown Bothell, you think, or?
Well, I think it's kind of coming. Like I think Justin's right. I feel like that it's kind of coming this way.
Yeah. Well, to go into like the things like what there is to do, right? So John mentioned some of the downtown Bothell things. So we obviously got a lot of restaurants. Like one of my favorite restaurants in the area is Amaro Bistro.
Yeah.
That place is fantastic.
Sounds
but,
Italian.
You know, it's tough. It's tough though, because when you live here in Kenmore, there aren't really any places. I mean, we're lucky enough to go to the best restaurant in Kenmore here in Inglewood. And, you know, for Inglewood's great because, you know, you don't have to be a full golfing member to come and eat here. You can be a social member. And so that's really a fantastic option for so many people here in Kenmore. But then in addition to that, you know, you go to actually, if you want to have a nice dinner, there's really nowhere in Kenmore to go to have a really nice dinner. Go to Amaro Bistro. You know,
that's in Kenmore.
In downtown Bothell.
Oh, that's
downtown Bothell. Yes.
Okay.
You know,
go up the hill to the lodge. But
what's the second best restaurant in Kenmore? Is there one or a third best restaurant?
We'd have to say the Lodge. I can't remember the name of the restaurant there, but
it's the Lodge of it, St. Edwards.
But the name of the restaurant there, I can't remember what it's called.
That's
but
cool.
that's obviously a really nice place too. But you know, you have McMinimans, which you know. Was completely redeveloped.
Such a good decision.
Yeah, totally. And so they've got a hotel downtown Bothell there. They've got a saltwater swimming pool. They got like 4, 5, or 6 different bars and restaurants in there. They have a theater. It's really a fantastic spot. So that whole downtown Bothell core over the last 15 years has completely redeveloped and just become such a much more diverse area for people to come hang out. And that's where a lot of people in Kenmore utilize downtown Bothell as kind of their little hub, right?
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like walkability.
Totally.
What's it feel like? Are you starting to get high rises? Is it that kind of downtown, or is it just more of a, hey, it looks like it's getting modernized, but you still got this cool small town feel, walkability?
Depends on the spot, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it's got a combination of
It's
both.
got a combination. So my mom, you know, it's funny. Our you know, the Ranch Drive-In still sits there, and it's just this iconic third generation drive-in. The best burger in town in Bothell is at the Ranch Drive-In, and you know, every time you win a football game, the kids chant, "We own the ranch, we own the ranch." Anyway, and so
burgers if they win.
That's right.
Otherwise,
good luck. But as you go. You know, if you go to the Ranch, like I said, that's a great restaurant. But if you go a little bit, what direction is that towards Kenmore? Is that
west?
West, right? So if you go a little west, my mother actually was early. They built the Shag Building, so senior housing.
Oh yeah.
And so they built the Shag Building, and my mom has the ability to get Section 8 housing and has for quite some time. And so we transferred her from Brewery to that big Shag Building down there, and so that's a decently sized building.
Nice.
The apartments are decently sized. Popkini.
Yeah.
You talked about the best restaurant being the Amaro, which we love too. I knew the GM really well, but right there is Popkini Stadium, maybe the best high school football viewing stadium. And your kids.
He's a little biased, but
No, but all 4 North Shore schools play there. You know, it's a shared stadium.
So they got quadruple funding.
Yeah, totally. It's a cool spot for sure.
It's a phenomenal place for kids to go. You know, win, lose or draw, to go to a football game.
Totally.
It's a Friday night lights feel.
Yeah.
It's a great stadium
Without a doubt.
for soccer as well. Woodinville soccer.
You don't have to go all the way to Texas for it.
Right. Right. So.
But
that's awesome.
to go into Kenmore a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we're talking about downtown
Right.
Bothell,
I think I got a good feel for that one right now. Yeah.
Whereas Kenmore, I mean, you know, it doesn't have as much, but what it does have is it has a brewery district.
Yeah.
You know, we've got 4 breweries here in Kenmore. You know, there's Copperworks Distillery, which is new to the Kenmore area. So that's really fantastic. You know, but I think what really helps Kenmore kind of, elevate itself in my eyes a little bit is the access to the waterfront, which, we have different parks that allow access to the waterfront. It's one of the only boat launches in around Lake Washington, right in the north end of the lake there.
On the north side here, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
You can
It's
launch
great,
kayaks there. There's Log Boom Park. You've got St. Edward's Park, which is this massive, massive park with the St. Edward's Lodge, which we
Where is
mentioned
that?
earlier.
Like St. Edward's?
So St. Edward's is effectively right on the southern tip of Kenmore. It's right where the Kenmore Kirkland
Bastyr
border is.
University.
So Bastyr
Okay.
University is there. The lodge at St. Edward's is there. And you can get all the way down to the water. There's some great
So
hiking
kind of
through there.
the northeast side of Lake Washington, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, it's so if you
And
know
people,
where
it's undersold.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
people don't. It's kind of a gem.
it is awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very. You're not overwhelmed with people, certainly in the current environment when you go down to those areas. So my question, Justin, from a real estate perspective, is pound for pound, same house, Bothell, Kenmore. As we had this discussion, in my mind, I would think that a Bothell, same property, same, would cost a little more. I don't know. Is that accurate?
Not
Or are they
necessarily,
the
no.
same, or is it Kenmore's more?
Well, and I mean, I love the question because a big part of it has to do with the geographic, like how.
What
like for
part,
instance,
right?
Exactly,
Within
because
Kenmore,
Bothell is
within
so
Bothell.
large, right?
Yeah.
And so you go north to south. Bothell, downtown Bothell's in the very southern tip of Bothell.
Yeah.
So it's not really somewhere that if you live anywhere near, let's say, Mill Creek,
Right.
you're not going to go to downtown Bothell.
Yeah.
Right.
But for people who live in Kenmore, because Kenmore is kind of a north-south, you got the downtown Kenmore and, it's kind of surrounding it. But people can very easily get to downtown Bothell very quickly to
I
be
do
able
it,
to help
yeah.
serve.
Yeah.
And so the point is that, you can't really compare the two from a real estate perspective
Yeah.
because I think they're almost servicing two different types of, like
Yeah.
if you're up further in Bothell, you're looking
Yeah.
for something completely different than if you live in Kenmore or anywhere
Yeah.
closer to downtown Bothell.
Well, but how about like a house by Inglewood High School that's similar to a house by Bothell High School?
Yeah.
And I get you, because
Yeah.
there's some of those
Yeah.
benefits you just mentioned.
Yeah.
The boat launch is interesting. I
Yeah.
take that for granted, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what would be your comparison there?
I mean, at that
Because now
point,
you're
they're,
choosing one high,
at
one of
that
the high
point they're pretty
schools.
similar. I
That's
mean,
okay.
I think one of them is going to be a little bit closer to Kirkland,
Right.
which is going to have maybe
Kenmore
a little bit
will.
more desirability for certain people.
Yeah. A little
Where-
closer to 405, right?
Well,
So
that's
a
gonna be-
quicker shot down the street.
Yeah, so
Down
like
the-
Bothell's going to be a
Yeah.
little bit closer to 405 in the sense
Yeah.
that it's right there. Whereas, getting closer to Inglemoor is kind of like that, getting closer to Juanita and the more dense parts of kind of the North Juanita area.
Yeah. Is Inglemoor, where is it geographically located relative to this Bothell High School?
Well, so
So-
Inglemoor High School is effectively directly to the east of where we are now at Inglewood
Correct.
Golf Club,
Yeah,
right?
so
And so it
it would
is
be
south
south.
of the Lake Sammamish, the Sammamish River, and whereas Bothell High School is on effectively the north side of downtown Bothell.
Yeah, on the other, what you said is on the other side of the Sammamish River, and that's what
Yeah.
I said.
Yeah.
When I felt like I sold out when I moved across because
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
does. There
okay.
is kind of, and now they are technically.
It's true.
Kenmore is on the north side, like a lot of that downtown
Yeah.
Kenmore's development is on the north side, and certainly everything that Justin talked about, the Amaro, is. But as you think about, you come across there, and that to me feels like, okay, now I'm in Kenmore, right? Which is that what you're talking about at Inglewood High School.
Yeah.
But your point is proximity to Kirkland, it might be more. Actually.
Yeah. Feels like it might as just somebody who is providing some independent perspective as I'm hearing things, you're closer to like a downtown Bothell center, which is
Yeah.
always generally closer you are to like a detractive downtown. That's more expensive. It's a little closer to Kirkland maybe, but it's got.
Well, Inglemoor is going to be like.
So Inglemoor is closer
Yeah,
to Kirkland.
the
So
Ken-
I see.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
adjacent.
Yeah.
But
It's
your
just
access
different.
to it is
Yeah.
different because your
Just
access
different.
to 405
Yeah.
changes.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare the two, but at the end of the day, they're both fantastic communities. What I will say is downtown Bothell, when we're talking about downtown Bothell versus Kenmore,
Yeah.
you have way more family housing options in Kenmore than you do anywhere near downtown Bothell.
Yeah.
Because downtown Bothell is more developed for apartments, condos, townhouses, that type of thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. So from somebody who is, I guess, what are the factors that they need to consider if somebody's interested in kind of buying in this area? You throw Woodinville into the mix, trying to think of a buyer, right, who's moving to the area, and they're being told to consider all these different places, right? There's Woodinville, we can throw that into the mix. What about Redmond? Redmond's a little, is big and kind of goes far out. Then you've got,
Forest Park.
Lake Forest Park. You've got Mountain Lake Terrace. Just give some perspective there so people can understand maybe how real estate prices compare, some of the pros and cons that someone you might consider.
Yeah.
Because so far, right, everything, it's like downtown Bothell and Kenmore are kind of really hidden gems, it feels like, that people don't know about. But here we are exposing it to all of you.
Yeah, so I think there's so many factors that go into why one of these communities is going to be better than the other. What I will say about Kenmore, and this is a bit of a downside to Kenmore in general, is Kenmore doesn't have a draw right now that it has going for it, other than proximity to something like Inglewood Golf Club for myself and my family. It was a big draw for us. Proximity to things like the Burke Gilman Trail, proximity to the access to the water. There are some great parks around. Like, that's really about it, though. But there's the brewery. There's
As
lots
far
of
as
things.
Kenmore itself, right?
Exactly.
Within
and so
Kenmore.
So that was why we chose
You got
where
the
we
bowling
lived,
alley.
right?
Yeah.
The bowling alley, exactly. Lucky Strike.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But Kenmore Lanes. But yeah, I mean, that's why we chose here, right? But I understand that there's a lot of different things that factor into decisions that people make. So, Lake Forest Park is going to be that much closer to Seattle. And so that could make more sense for someone who's interested in that. But at the same time, when you're talking about a community, they don't really have anything. They have less than Kenmore does when we're talking about services and amenities.
It's also a forest. Lake Forest Park.
Fair enough.
I've looked at a lot of real estate there. Nothing against Lake Forest Parks, but there's so many. It's very dense.
But people love Lake Forest Park.
Just depends.
It's fantastic, and I mean, we've got some great friends who live in like Sheridan Beach, Sheridan Heights, and whatnot. But you get into areas like Mountain Lake Terrace. That's going to be less expensive because it's further removed it's further north, right? You go into Bothell. You go further north than Bothell. There's going to be some absolutely beautiful communities. Getting up into towards Mill Creek.
I mean, you're going to get new construction communities as well too,
you're
right?
Getting
some
cheaper,
some more higher end. You got a little bit variety as you go further north into Bothell.
But I do feel like they're also very different.
Yeah, the proximity price point to me still is the key. Proximity and price point, I think, of these two kind of gems we're calling them. That people from the outside won't go, oh, Kenmore, or they might start going,
but they get
Bothell,
surprised by Kenmore. But they get surprised by Kenmore.
Doesn't come up in conversation too much, for sure.
But they do, right?
Yeah.
And
like proximity to Woodinville and the Woodinville Wine District.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, Woodinville is a fantastic area, right? And so that's one area that is highly desirable. It's a little bit further removed than somewhere like Redmond, which also has close proximity to the east side.
Typically a little more spread out.
Redmond.
Woodinville.
But Woodinville, right. I mean, for us we take Uber to the wine district, and it takes 15, 20 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
It's great. So it's nice, close proximity. Anyone in Bothell is going to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, we came to Kenmore from Bothell due to the proximity to the golf club, but also recognizing we weren't giving much up, right? I can drive up the hill to Bothell High School in about 7 minutes, right? So I can be in downtown Bothell in 7 minutes or less. And so I wasn't giving a lot up by making that move. And so, it'd be interesting, and then there's the Aqua Club up the hill. So you do have a place to swim. McMinimans, and I believe Bothell residents get access to McMinimans for a period of time. I think they signed like a 15-year I'm getting confirmation.
Yeah,
I think they get a 15-year ability to swim in that pool. I know Brian and his family.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good amenity.
It is a great amenity.
Aqua Club is a good swim club.
Yeah. So I'm doing the winter program.
Yeah.
Trying to get up early and go. But yeah, so but to your point, I think you're on the rise. They're on the rise.
Yeah.
And if you look at Kirkland, for example, Kirkland has risen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Sure.
totally.
Nobody
You know what I mean?
would say any part of Kirkland is a hidden gem right
Right.
now. Yeah.
I think if you look at
point.
truly communities that have potential to blossom,
Yeah.
Bothell has done what it can at
Yeah.
this point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The downtown Bothell core is, kind of what it is, and yes, of course, Bothell's a huge geographic area going north. But Kenmore itself is just this untapped little area that has so much room for development and so much room for opportunity, and it's a big source of conversation within the city hall.
Yeah.
The fact that Kenmore has gone from literally being a complete afterthought from a real estate perspective,
Right.
an afterthought from a downtown development perspective. No one ever thought of it other than an industrial hub. It was kind of like
Right.
the place on the north end of the lake where all the trash from when I-5 was built in the mid-1900s was brought into Kenmore and put on the Lake Point site.
Yeah.
I mean, that's legit where it was brought. And right now with all the, what is it, I can't remember what it is right now. But
The Lake Point development?
No, so we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But right now, all the work that's happening down the lake, I can't remember what it is. But anyways, they're staging a lot of things here up by the north end of the lake.
They did a great job at Logboon Park.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're referring to
That
the
log-
520
Correct, thank you, for 520.
lid
Yes,
project.
Yes, the lid project, and they're storing everything up here in the north end of the lake. So it really still is looked at as this industrial, kind of hub. But I think there's so much opportunity because there's a concrete and asphalt plant here.
Plywood supply.
Plywood supply. Like there are places that, serve a purpose, but the community around it is changing so rapidly that these are the types of places that are going to eventually get sold, developed, and I think we're going to see a very different Kenmore. That's where I see a lot of opportunity. Just forget about lifestyle,
I agree.
but actually from a valuation perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree. If you're looking at valuation and value.
It's not just a place you pass through on the Bothell Kenmore
No.
highway and you see a Taco Time and a Starbucks to the left
Correct.
and you see some industry to the right.
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't have to fly into Kenmore on Kenmore Air. Sounds like we've squashed that,
But
right?
you can, though. You can.
So it's pretty fun
You
to
can.
do.
It's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. I've definitely landed there on the way back from the San Juan, so it is pretty cool to do.
Yeah.
But you don't commute by seaplane.
No.
Just to be clear to everybody. Yeah.
No.
Easy proximity to lots of places.
But thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
When we're talking about one of the King County, one of their #1 additional ferry ads that they'd like to put in the schedule is to go from Logboon Park in a water taxi from Logboon down to University of Washington.
Oh, let's go.
How cool would that
I
be?
do that on my boat, but I can only imagine. I can only imagine if everybody gets to do that.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
but that would be. That would
There's
be
already a
super
water
cool.
taxi, no?
Hey,
You can
come
only
on.
have so many
That's
people.
right. That's
But
right.
that's a
great.
legit. There's three different paths that they're looking at creating, and that's one of them. And I think that would be such a huge ad for the city of
And they've
Kenmore.
had one in the past, right?
Yeah.
Years and years
I'm
and
not
years
sure.
ago. There used to be a lake. There used to be on the Lake Washington. Used to have a ferry system, but that'd be awesome.
So you were
That's great.
You were
Yeah.
mentioning Lake Point development, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
So
Tell me more about that, because that's, I think, prime real estate potentially.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Where all this industry currently is.
well, it's actually just adjacent to where the industry is. So there's a parcel of land. I believe it's 90 acres, if I'm not mistaken. It effectively across the water from your place, but it's been being talked about.
Kayak there, quick.
Yeah, it's been talked about being developed for roughly 25 years now, if not more, like probably even before that. There are some environmental concerns with the site and the cost of which it would take to clean it up and redevelop it. But so they've actually, the current owners of the land has been under contract multiple times with developers to develop the property, but every single time it's kind of fallen through when they find out the feasibility of it.
Yeah.
And so what's happening right now is, I mean, it's prime land to do something with, and the city of Kenmore is speaking with the owners and trying to, figure out a good plan for what that land's going to look like. And, we can all, wish in one hand and, see what happens. But the city of Kenmore, I think, is really, really excited about, continuing to develop the waterfront, continuing to develop the downtown Kenmore area, just simply because it has so much potential.
Yeah, think about Kirkland, right? As if you go down to Kirkland waterfront, it's the same lake.
Yeah.
Just a different spot on the lake.
Totally.
I mean, I remember my cousin had a condo across from Houghton, and that real estate has just gone nuts.
Yep.
Right? And there's only so much real estate on water.
Right.
On Lake Washington specifically, right? And there is a lot of untapped lakefront property on Lake Washington that even if you start talking about St. Edwards and going down that direction past your house, and right? I mean,
well, we're not even talking about developing houses, right? Like that's.
No, I hear you.
It's more so about developing access to the water, and so the big part of what the city would like to do is they would love to go ahead and take the west part of this Lake Point site and developing it as parkland, and then the rest of it would be commercial, mixed residential. Who the heck else knows what would happen with it? But there's just so much opportunity to kind of, create this much more urban, dense environment in that whole area and redevelop a lot of the industrial sides of things.
Yeah.
I really think that would have a huge impact on what people look at as what Kenmore is.
So this podcast might need to be the launching point for Justin Day's city council run, because I'm in here. I believe everything rises and falls on the basis of leadership.
There we go. We just need a leader.
And I knew a lot of the folks over the last 15 years in Bothell who have been in the trenches in that city council and have, overcome. I mean, a lot of these councils are really close votes. 4-3, they're not unanimously developing a city like Bothell, and and people are averse to change.
Yeah.
And so you need people that have vision, that are, at the end of the day, the city council. And this isn't any indictment to any city council members currently, presently, or past, but the results of progress or entropy speak for themselves based on what actually happens. And Bothell has found over the last 10 to 15 years a ability to get through and develop, and Kenmore has struggled to find a consciousness in their city council. So that's all I'd say, Justin. Find us a couple people on the council.
There we go.
Not going to happen, John, but that's fine. But I do like what you said there, though, is that not everyone has loved the development of Bothell.
Right.
There's a lot of people who, really loved the kind of sleepy town feel that it had and a very kind of subdued downtown area.
And they've moved to Lake Stevens, and now they're developing Lake Stevens.
Yeah.
So
but the truth is that development is going to be a natural part of the process.
It is.
And when we look at places that have opportunities, Kenmore is one of those places that has opportunity.
Piles of opportunity.
But Bothell is definitely a very different place than it was. I mean, we're talking. I mentioned earlier, 40% population increase in Bothell in the last 10 years. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So our head football coach has been there for 25 years, right? So he's seen a lot of this, including the renovation of the Popkini Stadium. I play golf with him a few times a year, dear friend, his kids, his family, etc. But he was asking me when they put up that shag building and a kind of a couple of those things in downtown Bothell that were taller, right? The condos and apartments, and I think there's apartments like the Six Oaks and whatnot. He's like, we're at the ranch getting a burger, and he goes, it's just different. And he didn't have a he didn't have a sense of like, oh, this is bad.
Right.
But he's like, what do you think? I go, well, I'm a little partial because my mom lives right there.
Yeah.
So I was excited, and so I think that's your point is what type of place do people want to live in? Certainly the valuation side of Kenmore, the opportunity, if it can get I do believe the leadership and the vision to continue forward, because the resources are certainly within Kenmore's disposal to do those things, and the people and the commerce and Bothell Kenmore Chamber, and so anyway.
Yeah. Well, the development is going to happen no matter what, as long as you have scarcity of housing with proximity to employment centers in downtown Bellevue and downtown Seattle. So that's not going to go away, and that's going to continue to develop over time. So just by virtue of demand alone, there will be people who come in and recognize that demand. So we got the hidden gem of Kenmore as a place for what sounds like lots of different folks to live at different stages in their life. You got senior housing, you got apartments and townhomes, and then you've got a lot of single family with great schools.
When you mentioned Bellevue and Kirkland, I mean, it's understated how quickly you can get from Kenmore to Bellevue, right? Or from Kenmore to Kirkland. Like
Well, Kenmore and Kirkland border each other. That's I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, you can go through the city of Kirkland from my place in Kenmore in 12 to 15
Juanita,
minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah, well, to
Downtown Kirkland, 15?
To Juanita, max 10 minutes.
That's
Downtown
amazing.
Kirkland, 15.
Great.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get easily 10 to 15% higher in prices in Juanita, and then another 15 to 25 to 50%. 100% prices more in Kirkland, right?
Easy.
Depending on what part of Kirkland. So that's pretty incredible. It sounds like it's just inevitable. It's just when is it going to happen? Do you see a lot of changes in like older single family houses being torn down with new construction type? Is that change happening here?
No.
That's
because
interesting.
That
seems to happen almost anywhere.
The community itself was developed, much more recently. So, what you see in like a place like Kirkland is, land is so valuable there that someone's going to tear down a very simple, modest house and build this monstrosity that's worth $5 million. Whereas that doesn't exist here in Kenmore, right? I mean, the $5 million houses are the ones that are the gorgeous places on the waterfront. So you're not really seeing that. I see a lot of places that get remodeled and maybe expanded, but not in any way torn down and rebuilt.
What year? I meant to look it up ahead of this, but Kenmore was not incorporated that long ago.
I can tell you right now. It was incorporated in 1998.
I would have been real close.
1998.
Yeah, it's a very young city.
So 1961 to 1978, 4 buildings are constructed in downtown Kenmore. That's literally how new the city of downtown Kenmore.
4 whole buildings in 17 years.
Exactly. But I'm saying like that there was nothing there in the 50s.
The
50s, it was a dump essentially. It was legit a dumping place for the I-5 building of I-5. And then in 1999, the city acquired a 3/4 acre parcel for the city hall. Where the post office currently resides. And the new city hall is more recent. But everything in Kenmore happened in the 2000s in terms of all the development that we know of now. And it's only going to continue to grow exponentially. Everything in downtown Bothell that we know of now started in 2010. Legit 2010. It's crazy. It'll be interesting to see how it continues to develop, especially with the proximity to the north end of Lake Washington. I mean, John mentioned it earlier, but being where Kenmore Air is based out of, a huge seaplane community there. Kenmore Air flies all over the Pacific Northwest. You've really only got Kenmore, you've got Renton, which has its own little small seaplane area, and then you got the one in Lake Union. That's the only place anywhere near the core of Seattle where you can catch a seaplane from.
And how cool is that we can catch
It's the
seaplanes?
coolest. It's so cool.
In 3 different locations.
It's
in
kind of
the
a
area.
That's pro
pretty
tip
cool.
is they have repositioning flights. So if you've never gone on a seaplane, you know when they move the planes from Kenmore to Lake Union, you can do a repositioning flight for nominal. It's not very expensive.
Just for fun.
Yeah,
just
and
to
it's
cross
like
over.
either in the
That's
morning
cool.
or in
That's
the
a good
afternoon.
insider tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you could take everybody on for, you know, maybe $100 or whatever, and get that experience of flying into the city.
Okay, that's great. I mean, we talked about
That's a pro tip
the
right
cities
there.
as hidden gems. We got the pro tip here. So to close out, is there anything else you really want to talk about, or is there like, can we close with maybe, hey, what's your favorite thing about the area, you know, and however you.
My favorite thing about the area, and I think this is a topic of conversation just simply because you have two experts about it right here, is, you know, Inglewood Golf Club. For me, I mean, I'm so passionate about it. I mean, we got the president of the club here, but Inglewood Golf Club is one of the oldest golf clubs around, started in 1919. Huge, long history, lots of different, you know, high-profile events that it's hosted over the years. I think it's only become a better and better and better golf course over the years, and the facilities are really fantastic. It is a kind of a hub of Kenmore, and so, you know, especially for people who are wanting to get into that private golf club type of environment, there's only so many places that you can go and really have a fantastic, top-notch experience. And so, you know, you go to areas like Bellevue, like Seattle, you can go to, you know, Overlake, or you can go to Glendale, or you can go to Broadmoor or Seattle Golf Club. These are all places where it's extremely expensive around those areas. You can obviously commute to them, but you can live and have a top-notch private country club community experience in an area that is not astronomically expensive. So, you know, obviously there's other areas that are outside of, you know, you get up into like Mill Creek, for instance, or Everett, or, you know, Rainier down south. I mean, these are all places that are great, but they're not to the same level as what we have here at Inglewood. And I think that really is a big draw for Kenmore.
I do too, and even a niche down further, right, is Justin's a former, or maybe former junior chair. You doing it again? Okay, good.
Current? All
Just
right.
nice.
Yeah.
You got no city council, but he's staying in the junior chair, which actually I think is more valuable in a lot of ways to the work that happens. But we have phenomenal junior golf happening here at Inglewood. We have tremendous kids that love to play the game of golf, and so yes. You know, we also have a caddy program, right? So that you live around here and you have a kid who may not be, you know, I'm going to go play college golf or have aspirations of being a really good high school golfer or win in state or whatever. But the caddy program here at Inglewood is now one of 2 golf clubs in the area that has a caddy program where if you live in and around this area, your kid can learn, you know, some professional skills. They can interface with some people in our community. For the most part, there's some outliers, but that are really nice and successful in some ways.
Yeah, and the Evans Scholarship Foundation, which, you know, with the caddy program, which, you know, the other club he's talking about is Seattle Golf Club. Yeah. But, you know, Inglewood is starting to get a bit of a, you know, getting a hold in the caddy world now. So it's taken a lot of work, and you know, our team is continuing to do a lot of work with that. But, you know, it's awesome to be able to have kids from the local community here who caddy at Inglewood all of a sudden be able to get Evans scholarships, which, for those who don't know what the Evans Scholarship is, it is, you know, people get a full ride scholarship to, you know, a school of their choosing.
Including the University of Washington.
But, you know, we have several people who are members here at Inglewood who were Evans Scholars, and they were able to caddy and, you know, obviously make some money doing that. And then, you know, through the Evans Scholarship Foundation, they were able to get full ride scholarships to college.
And it's amazing. You talk about creation of wealth as the second half of this podcast, but I believe a piece of gaining access to wealth is the information. So I remember when I was 16 years old, I'd go to Jackson Park and I'd drive down there from 10 to 2, you can play as a junior for $5 in the summer. And I wanted to know, what do you do? What do you do? I had the intuition at 16, first ever in my immediate family to graduate from college, to ask people, what do you do? And the golf community and the golf club is a tremendous hub of synergy in terms of ideas and information that help create wealth and help to provide an increase to the things that matter, starting with our kids and our families and then going from there. And that's what I love about Inglewood too, is if you have a young family or you're thinking about having a family, this is a place where you feel comfortable and you can bring your family. It's Taco Thursday tonight, by the way. We put down 54, a humble 54 last.
There you go.
Yeah,
Dollar tacos.
Sounds like we have a contest.
Right, so I think that niche of
cool.
the aspiring, people who have kids. We just had somebody buy a house on you helped with it, right? Out on number 12,
On
right?
12, yeah.
Yeah, and we just had another couple come down and move to Kenmore from Everett, who their young son was, okay, and now they're in Inglewood, and when he talks about a community, it's not a buzzword here, like it's real.
Yeah, and that's where, to end this, Maynard, I mean, Inglewood is really a hub of Kenmore. It's such a huge integral part of what the Kenmore area is. I mean, there's so many social members. We were mentioning earlier about, the best restaurant in Kenmore being Inglewood's restaurant. The social membership is used by so many different Kenmore residents. And it really is a fantastic place for people to have that type of lifestyle. They don't have to live in the community here, but they can live in the area surrounding and still be able to have exposure to a world-class facility like this. So,
yeah, no question. Yeah, it's a special place. I think, if I'd round it out, is what I'm hearing you help people understand is how to capitalize on the opportunities and empower them to capitalize on the opportunities of both where they live, where they work, and where they play, and giving them this option, understanding of this option where they may not have had it otherwise. And I think that's true of Kenmore, and I think that's true of Bothell to a degree, comparatively to some of the other cities we mentioned that are a stone's throw away in Bellevue and Kirkland. Maybe because Microsoft, and some of these big tech companies are housed there, so they've gotten national, notoriety in that way. But this is a great community to live in, either one of the cities. And Justin, I would throw, personal experience. When I have people who I know are to this local community who need help in real estate, he does a tremendous job. So I don't know if this is a plug. I don't know who the audience is, but do reach out to Justin because he's very, very good, and he treats. From my experience, it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish. His goal is just to help you accomplish it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate you guys and us wrapping up here about Inglewood, because as somebody who's not a member but has been fortunate enough to be a guest here, and I've gone to other country clubs in the area, and nothing against them, but personally I've always felt that there was a special community feel and a really group of nice, genuine people. And if I had lived closer, I would hope I would have the opportunity to join, but I don't. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to visit. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you guys for being guests here. The funny thing is what we're doing in Seattle Living and Wealth Building is we're just trying to expose all the different areas and communities and cities and neighborhoods to help you, our viewers, learn about areas that you may not have heard about. If you're thinking about moving here, we're here to guide you and help you. We've got a phenomenal guy here with respect to insurance and some other services that he provides. But yeah, downtown Bothell and Kenmore may not come off your lips the first time you hear about the Seattle and Bellevue area, and it may not seemingly be the sexiest, but there's a lot about this area that is desirable, and hopefully we've been able to educate you guys and inform you. So appreciate you watching. We look forward to doing another episode about the next community to highlight. Thank you.
And if you have a community that you want to have featured on this podcast, let us know. We'd love to talk about it.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
All right, guys. Yeah.
Thanks,
everybody.